Issues around land reform have come to the fore in the National Assembly here in South Africa last week. That was with members of Parliament debating the willing buyer, willing seller policy. Now, the National Freedom Party, they initiated the debate by calling for the government to invoke limitation rights in the Constitution to speed up land reform, which they say is happening too slowly, at a snail's pace, actually. However, as you heard, the Freedom Front Plus leader said that the threats that land can be taken without compensation from legal owners is extremely dangerous and as such could even lead to civil war in this country. Now, to talk more about this emotional issue in our Durban studios, we are joined by Njabulo Mlaba. He's the National Freedom Party KZN member of the Provincial Legislature. Mr. Mlaba, thank you for being with us today.
One greetings to you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity given to us.
Please, you initiated the land debate in Parliament, talking about the slowness of this process. Take us through your thoughts on land reform, and also if you can give us a response to Dr. Pieter Groenewald, who again mentioned civil war in the discussions with us in an earlier interview today.
No, firstly, I think let one clarify the issue of the civil law. I don't think there will be a civil law. What we're saying is that people should not take this as a black versus white fight. But I think in 23 years of democracy, let us all agree that we as the National Freedom Party believe that the government has failed to orchestrate the system. You see, the land reform has been stately, and the way that it has been orchestrated, I think it is not fair to the black people. If you consider that white people still occupy a larger portion of land, especially in KZN, so there won't be a civil law. It's just that the government needs to have its system in place to make sure that we give people the land accordingly.
What do you then make of Dr. Pieter Groenewald, the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, who says this could lead to civil war if it's not handled properly or if the land is taken without compensation?
The big question is that why people are talking about civil war after 23 years of democracy. Let us face the facts here. It is true that white people occupy a larger portion of land. And what we are saying is that the government must revoke Section 39 of the Constitution. Because when you go to the Constitution, they say that the land belongs to everyone who lives in it. We believe as the National Freedom Party that the black people are still marginalized when it comes to the land issue. So when we talk about civil law, I think in 23 years of democracy, we don't need that as South Africans. But what we need is the government that will understand the views of smaller parties like the NFP, because we understand what we're talking about. We've got a system that we believe will help the country. Bring us on board, check the system, and then make sure that you involve people who are in serious need of land. Let us not forget that people have been chased away from their own land, from their land of their forefathers. Now let us have a system that will speak to the problem that we are facing. Other than the issue of the civil law, I think it is out of this league.
What is your position as the NFP then on the willing buyer, willing seller principle that has brought us to the discussions we're having now?
We've been advocating this for a very long time. It has failed dramatically, and it's not going to assist anyone in South Africa. The typical example is that here, if you are rich, you will get more land. If you are poor, you're not getting more land. So it goes back to the thing where you say that the richer gets richer, the poor gets richer. So in order for us to try and elevate the lacuna between the richer and the poor, let us have a system. The government must have a system of a land distribution. We must be having a system that will talk to us by saying that a certain individual must own a certain piece of land so that we'll be able to make people share the land equally. But when we say that people must buy the land, you mean that Njabulo Mlaba will not have the land because I don't have millions on the bank. So it's a very unfashionable style that is not going to benefit us as Africans or as South Africans. But what we're saying is that let us have a system, a well-orchestrated system that will talk to the problem that we are facing. And that is why we are saying, and we believe that as National Freedom Party, in 23 years of democracy, the government has been very slow in distributing the land. And up to now, the government has even failed to understand that by distributing the land, you are not only talking about farmers, because now it's like you're just talking about farmers. There is so much that is at stake. There's so much that can be done when it comes to land, except that you say people must be farmers.
Do you think that the land issue is being pushed forward as an election principle for 2019?
Yeah, I would say that it is being pushed forward. But the problem is that, you know, when we talk about facts, I think one of the harsh truth is that the ruling party seems not to understand what they're talking about when they talk about the land distribution. Remember that they've been in power for 23 years. That is why that we say maybe they are now taking it as a tool to campaign for it. But what we need to do is that the government, as the custodian of the policies and the custodian of the decisions that affect the South Africans, the government should sit down, engage sectors that believe what should be done to get the land system, give people the land equally. Now, what we're saying is that, like where I come from, it's true that white people own a larger portion of land, but engage the people that are involved. Then you say, I've got a system that will say that people will share the land amongst themselves. Then you also involve your systems like the soil science, the land researchers, so that we know that when it comes to soil, this soil is conducive to what? Because, you know, when we talk about land, you've got minerals, you've got so many things. It's not just only farming. That is why I'm saying that the government need to come in place or need to engage people like us, the National Freedom Party, who understand what they're talking about when they talk about the land reform.
I thank you for joining us today. That's Njabulo Mlaba from the National Freedom Party. Of course, we're talking about land today.